Now, this perfect place of creation is where people begin to do the uncommon. This is where their soul begins to speak to them. This is where they see a greater purpose for themselves in their lives, and they're no longer playing by the small-minded games any longer.
Hello, and welcome to my review of Dr. Joe Dispenza's video, The Quantum Model of Reality That We Live In. In this video, Dr. Dispenza talks about the science behind the quantum model of reality and how it can help us understand our experiences in life. Right from the start, I was struck by Dr. Dispenza's calm and engaging way of speaking. He starts by explaining the basics of the quantum model of reality and how it differs from the classical model that most people are familiar with. The main message of this video is that the quantum model of reality suggests that we are not separate from the universe, but rather connected to everything around us. Dr. Dispenza argues that our thoughts and emotions create a magnetic field that interacts with the quantum field and shapes our experiences in life. Therefore, by becoming more aware of our thoughts and emotions, we can have more control over our reality and create the life we desire. Throughout the video, Dr. Dispenza gives several examples of how the quantum model of reality can be applied in daily life. He shares stories of people who have used this understanding to overcome illness, financial challenges, and other obstacles by changing their thoughts and emotions and aligning with the quantum field. Overall, I found Dr. Joe Dispenza's video, The Quantum Model of Reality That We Live In, to be incredibly thought-provoking and enlightening. His message about the interconnectedness of everything and the power of our thoughts and emotions to shape our reality is one that I think can benefit anyone who wants to live a more fulfilling life. If you're interested in learning more about the quantum model of reality and how it can be applied in your life, I highly recommend giving this video a watch.
The quantum model of reality is about causing an effect, which means you have to teach your body emotionally what empowerment feels like before your success. You have to be whole before your healing. You have to be in awe before the mystical moment. You have to feel freedom and abundance before your wealth appears. And when we do that, then to the materialist, it would seem really insane or foolhardy because the event hasn't happened. But to the quantum mind, though, the body is getting a sampling of the future before the experience occurs. And if we do this properly and we marry it with a clear intention, the body begins to believe it's in the future instead of in the past. And now we're defined by a vision of the future instead of a memory of the past. And so we teach people how to come out of their resting state. Unfortunately, as I said, most people wait for the crisis to come out of their resting state, and when they say this is enough. But everybody already knows how to do this, because everybody that's on this call has already done something great in their life. What did they do? They made a decision. They had a vision. They got inspired by that vision. They decided what thoughts would support them to that vision, what behaviors and choices they were going to make. They felt enthusiastic, and they began to get their behaviors to match their intention, and they changed. Now think about it when we set out to do something and we didn't accomplish. We got lazy, we had a vision, we got emotional, we got too busy, stress got in the way, we had social appointments, and we traded that vision for mediocrity. So we come out of our resting state, and the body has to be energized with a new frequency. And we were capturing in our last workshop probably 40,000 times the amount of energy in people's brains when they did this. Now, 40,000 times the amount of energy, give you an idea. When people's brains are firing in normal, limited consciousness, we're about 10 to 60 microvolts squared of energy. We're talking about 1 million microvolts of energy in a person's brain. I mean, you can charge your iPhone with that. That is how powerful we really are. So then, as we begin to overcome those limitations that block the flow of the divine in us, as we begin to remove those layers, we begin to feel connected to something greater. And then the next challenge appears. So when we begin to get our mind and body right, and we begin to look at what piece of knowledge could we apply to this adversity to change something about ourselves, to get closer to source, I think that when people really begin to realize that there's no structure out there, there's structure for drugs, there's structure for alcohol, there's structure for gambling, there's structure for video gaming or overeating or shopping or all of consumerism. You take a pill and it makes a feeling go away immediately. You're going to correlate that internal change with whatever you did to take that, and you're going to develop an attachment or an addiction. And what that does is it begins to broaden the gap. And you could be the wealthiest, the most successful, the most popular person, most good-looking person in the world, but if you haven't overcome that emotion right there, you haven't evolved in one life. And this is where we have to begin to look at where we're going to make the biggest contribution to ourselves, because as we begin to understand that the soul cannot create a future experience, and the soul wants to really have new events and novel experiences. If you're living by the same emotion every single day, and you're anchored emotionally in your past, and your body's been conditioned emotionally to be in the past, then until you overcome that emotion, the soul can't get on with creating anything new, because for the most part, you're bound to a past experience. So when we begin to overcome the emotions, then we're literally pulling our mind out of the past, and that's when we begin to create a new future. Because the simple premise is this: your personality creates your personal reality, and your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality, called Panache, has created the present personal reality called his life. So if Panache wants to create a new personal reality, a new life, then he's got to become conscious of those thoughts he's been thinking and change them. Become aware of his behaviors and his emotions and alter those. And I think most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. We literally have to become someone else. So then if you begin to embrace this paradigm on the deepest level, then the soul's real desire is really to experience the unknown, to experience something new. And so if you're living and feeling the same way every single day, then it means nothing new is happening in your life. And that boredom right now I'm going to speak for you, that boredom or that predictable, familiar emotion is what's nagging at you and bothering you, because you know on a soul level there's more to experience. So then as you begin to look at the old identity, and this is where we get stuck, is that for most people it's their personal reality that's creating their personality. You know, it's the media and the social engagements and the advertising and television and and the people and things in our life. We're reacting to everything known in our life, and by consciously or unconsciously, when we see certain people, we go to certain places, we do certain things at the exact same time. It's the external environment that's controlling how we think and feel. So if you understand that, then it would be a good idea to eliminate yourself from your external environment. That's called meditation. You close your eyes, and now you have less sensory information coming into your brain. You put in earplugs or you play music, and that fills the space. So now inner world starts becoming more real than your outer world. You put your body away. You're no longer your body. You're no longer a face. You're no longer identity. And if you do it properly, you'll forget about time. Now, that elegant moment where you dissociate from your body, your identity, your things in your life, the people in your life, the places in your life, and time, that's the moment you become pure consciousness. Now, if you're thinking certain thoughts that are making certain chemicals for you to feel a certain way, and the moment you feel that way, you think more thoughts, and those thoughts create more feelings, and your brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. It's an artifact of the past. You're thinking in the past, and those emotions that feel familiar are a record of the past. And for the most part, people are trying to view their future through the lens of the past, but can't get anywhere. So then, as we begin to no longer think and feel in that cycle, and we dissociate into thought alone, the energy that's feeding all of our sexual identity, all of our digestion, all of the energy for importance and control and the adrenal hormones, all that energy has got to go somewhere. And the first place it goes right into the heart. And you know you're getting close when all of a sudden you start to feel your heart open up. When that occurs, the moment that occurs, you're no longer living in your past identity. That's the moment you're completely in the present moment. Now, there's danger to be in the present moment. There's dangers to express love. There's dangers to trust, because if you're living in an environment where survival is the credo, you're not going to want to close your eyes and go within. You're not going to want to trust anybody. This is not a time really to relax. This is a time to be vigilant. So then people they can intellectually understand it, but they can't get to that level because they're always perceiving their environment as the jungle. So when we begin to overcome those emotions of stress that are highly addictive, the body is no longer being tormented like an addict. That is when the body to liberate energy, and that's when our heart starts to open, and that's when we start to believe in possibility again. So if our personality creates our personal reality, we make a decision first. We examine who we've been, and I call it crossing the river of change, from the old self to the new self. Crossing that river is going to to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel unfamiliar, and you are going to feel like it's unpredictable, because the moment you're no longer thinking that way or acting that way or feeling that way, you're going to feel like an unknown. Now, this is biological, the neurological, the chemical, and even genetic death of the old self. This is the pain that you experience because the body's looking for its familiar chemical state. That pain is normal, and if you understand that that void, that unknown, is the perfect place to create it, that's the place you want to create it, and not to fear it, but to embrace it, and your body's craving the familiar chemicals that it's addicted to, then you might want to say when you're in that place, well, the best way to predict my future is to create it, not from the known, but from the unknown. Now, this perfect place of creation is where people begin to do the uncommon. This is where their soul begins to speak to them. This is where they see a greater purpose for themselves in their lives, and they're no longer playing by the small-minded games any longer, because they're connected to some bigger vision in the future. I think transformation is really the one thing that I'm more passionate about than anything else. And so I think number one, taking time out of our busy day for ourselves is the greatest service that we can do for ourselves, for our family, for the people we work with, and for our community. Now, if most people's attention is on their external environment, on their body, and on time, and they wake up every morning and they get out of bed and they do the same thing they've been doing for the last 20 years, then their body's already programmed into a predictable future. Their body's already on autopilot. They have a thought of the coffee pot, and the next thing they know, they have coffee in their hand. They have a thought of the shower, the next thing they know, they're in the shower. They have a thought about going to work, the next thing they know, they're in their car. So their body is following their mind. If they're living by the same emotions every single day, then their body, for the most part, is in the past, because emotions are a record of the past. So finding the sweet spot of the present moment in our meditation is so highly important, because the body has been trained to be in the future. So then most people, when they take their meditation and they stick it in as another thing to do so they don't have to feel guilty, that's not the answer either. Working with your body and understanding that it's the animal, and we do this in our workshops. We we ask them in their meditation to really get to that point where they're unfolding in that infinite field of potentials as thought alone. In other words, if you're going to heal yourself by thought alone, or create something in your life by thought alone, then you have to become thought alone. This is the key element where all of a sudden now, when you keep practicing bringing your body back into the present moment, and you become aware that it's thinking about, well, what about this thing I have to do, and this plane I have to catch, and this contract I have to sign, and that person I have to call, that's a predictable future. And you become aware that you're investing your energy into that reality, because where you place your attention is where you place your energy. Or you're living by some emotion of impatience or frustration or vigilance, then you're siphoning energy out of the present moment, and you have no energy to create with. So every time you become conscious that you're moving out of the present moment, and just like riding an unbridled stallion, every time you bring that body back into the present moment and you relax it back down into the present moment and you surrender into nothing, every time you do that, you're reconditioning your body to a new mind. In other words, you're not allowing your body to become the mind. Now, people will say, well, that's going to take a lot of work. And I say to them, well, what's the alternative? What do you want to do? Do you want to do drugs? I mean, nothing is going to help you get to the present moment but you. And if you practice being present every single day in your meditation, you will be more present in your life and less preoccupied with that worst case scenario, or that moment where something could go wrong, and living by those hormones of stress. And your body then finally starts to trust you. And when your body finally starts to trust you is the moment it's not worried about the unknown. The unknown is no longer dangerous. The unknown is actually an adventure.
Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.